Hello everyone and welcome back to Desktop Dungeons. Okay, we're back in the Kingdom of Few and Locks, and we're ready to take on the Eastern Tundra. Our boss is Count Blah Blah. And so we will be doing it with the priest. And in doing so we will be unlocking the Glowing Guardian. Now as a priest, once again, we can either be a halfling or a dwarf. Usually humans also do fine actually. Let's be a halfling. We'll just prepare a bit on boss. Actually, now that I think about it, we have 1300 gold, so let's upgrade the mage tower while we're at it. And we've unlocked goats, magically enhanced goats to be precise. These are also excellent monsters to unlock early, actually, because even though they have 25% magic resistance, they have lower health than average, just like the Gorgons. And 25% magic resistance isn't so much that you don't care for using fireballs on them. It's still their lower health actually kind of makes up for the fact that resistance, and yeah, they in some ways make the game easier. So yeah, let's go with the halfling priest. Now there's definitely a case to be made for taking a dwarf here, and the reason for that is we're unlocking the Glowing Guardian in this run. But ironically enough, the two classes you're most likely to unlock him with, the priest and the monk, are two of the classes least well suited for him, which is funny. It sounds like it's thematically inconsistent in a sense, because you'd expect priests and monks to be adepts of the Glowing Guardian, but no, actually. So let's have a look around. Nothing yet for now. As a halfling priest, my level 1 is quite weak unless I can find a glyph in a zombie or otherwise a undead to fight, like these vampires who have lifesteal. Now, what lifesteal does exactly is that when you uncover them, they will steal life equal to 40% of your current health and add it to their pool. But that only happens once. So if I were another class, or if I find a fireball, I could hit them once, and they would go down to below 6, and then they'd only ever recover up to their max health of 6. So they're very annoying, especially for a high health class like the priest. Or people who do a lot of regeneration fighting, like the monk, because they'll either steal a lot of life or get in the way of your fighting. But once they're uncovered, they're basically regular monsters. Oh, we have Lemicy, so let's use that a couple times. Lemicy is also really useful for uncovering monsters that have lifesteal, because it doesn't trigger the lifesteal. So their most annoying aspect is defanged, appropriately enough. And speaking of which, Count Blah Blah, who has lifesteal, he also has Retaliate Fireball, and he's the first monster that we encountered that has that, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, and we have Taurog over there, who's actually very good deity for the priest. Especially a halfling priest. I mean, any priest really, but and is especially good against a boss that uses Retaliate Fireball, in fact. So, let's use this a couple of times. A secret... Oh, no, that's not a secret sub-dungeon, but that is the sub-dungeon where we're going to encounter the Glowing Guardian. And the Glowing Guardian's unlocking task, in a sense, actually involves going back on the regular dungeon and killing off newly spawned vampire-like enemies. So, and one of them is level 9s. None of them give XP also. So you actually start worshipping the Glowing Guardian once you unlock him quite late, which is one of the less optimal ways, although not the worst way, of worshipping him. So all in all, it's he has a bit of a weird introduction. You're not. This is one thing that that forum user Lujo says that I tend to agree with, is that it's your first encounter with the Glowing Guardian is usually going to be a bit unusual, and it might give you a wrong impression, especially since his punishment for when you drop below 0 piety is the worst one in the game, in my opinion. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I will... oh, a fine sword. That's excellent. With the fine sword, we can actually out-regenerate this guy. Because if we stick to our traditional regeneration fighting formula, level times damage, I do 9 times 1, he does 4 times 2, so 8. Therefore, I do more than him over time, although it's not by so much that it... that it makes it super easy. But it's just enough if you're careful. Basically, you don't want to over-regenerate when you do this. And I think I'm gonna have to kill a level 1 monster to get to Taurog, and I want to get to him fairly early. So I'll go ahead and kill this Wraith, which will level me up and therefore cure the mana burn. This is a dungeon that has a very tight layout at the start. It's like you're walled off basically, and usually monsters are going to be blocking off the exits. So what you usually want to do, you'll usually have to kill at least 1 monster. I mean, I could have just leveled up on this one and then killed the Wraith a level higher, which actually been much better, but I totally didn't think of it. I could have also killed this goat to walk past it, but I want to get to Taurog, so that's fine. I'll just pick up what as I explore towards Taurog and do a bit of popcorn bowling. One last... Let's grab this vampire. Okay. Let's worship Taurog. I get the +4 starting piety, and I'm going to convert Lamici because that's the kind of glyph that you have to cast a lot to get use out of it, and I don't want to be repeatedly casting glyphs. I'll keep what for now until I get in there, just because it's handy for the first strike. And I will kill this weak little level 1 Warlock to get a lot of piety so I can grab his sword right away. So, worshipping Taurog as a halfling priest is really nice because you get very high damage, you get some damage reduction, and you get a lot of potions that restore to your full health so you can keep applying that high damage. So, Priests of Taurog are actually a nice, straightforward, quite powerful combo. Since I have some free piety, I'll just move some of the monsters around. Another thing about the layout of this dungeon, other than the fact that it walls you off at the start, is that there's a lot of black space that's behind large chunks of walls that you can't access. So be ready for that, basically. Try to be fairly conservative with your exploring. Unsurprisingly, I can take on this level 3 Gorgon. And there we go. Some lore. Seek out and conquer the darkness, returns the tokens of power. So yeah, there are now these vampire-like enemies. They don't lifesteal, they're not undead, and they give no experience, but they drop these little beads. I'll leave them on the floor for now because Taurog clogs up your inventory. Since I'm most likely going to be converting the fireball glyph and not using it much, we won't get to find this out here, but a very good tidbit to know is that the slowing debuff, see, no retaliation. So you can slow a monster with wait what, then, you know, explore a little bit to fill up your mana, then use your first fireball without having any retaliation. That's a very handy way of dealing with, well, notably bosses that have that trait. Do we have a level 3 around? Nope. I'll just grab this. A level 4 goat would also probably do the trick just fine. Normally, obviously, it'd be popcorn bowling, but I want to limit my glyph use a little bit because I'm worshipping Taurog and I don't want to bleed out piety. But I will move this guy out of the way since he's blocking the path. Oh, and zombie right here. Well, I'm at 6. I can afford it. Oh, yeah. I almost clicked on this guy. Wouldn't have been the end of the world, but still something you want to avoid. Level 3 goat. That's just fine for leveling up. And I'll be able to potentially level up on this guy. We'll find out. Let's convert some more glyphs. We will keep getting there because that's easily the best glyph a Taurog user, basically, for a Taurog worshipper. That being said, I can use wait what in the meantime. There we go. And I'll slow this one so I can hit it without getting mana burned. Wraiths are such good targets for Taurog priests, since low HP undead, mana burn doesn't matter as much because you're mainly using physical attacks, and you get 8 mana out of them because they have a 8 piety, sorry, out of them because they have a magical attack. Now, see, as a halfling priest, I'm totally fine with, oh wait, I don't need to use a single potion because I can just use it in there, but I would have been fine with using a health potion here. Like, here for this one, this is a 4 level higher monster that's a perfect target for my, to use one of the halfling's many health potions. And since I'm going to be casting a glyph, I won't take another Taurog boon right away, because that'll get me down 25. Just remember, the sword is 20 piety to get you started, but every other piece is 25 piety. Just something to remember. So, potion. Oh, and, well, I won't need to use piety then. Now, at the moment, the shield is going to reduce damage by 5, and the armor is going to be 15% resistance. So, out of curiosity, let's see. If I fight, say, this guy, if I try to fight, say, this guy, well, this guy, the armor obviously isn't going to help me. But at this point, most enemies, the shield is still going to be a bit more effective. Do we have a physical enemy like this one? Level 7. So this is the tipping point where the shield becomes less effective than the resistances. Because the shield is 5 damage reduction against monsters with higher attack like this one, the helm would be reducing the damage by 8. So be aware of that. It's easy to slip into the thought that, well, the armor and the helm are going to be more useful than shield at high levels, but check to see when that transition happens, because it can be later than you think. I'll just grab this because it's still useful against both type of attacks, and I need to get rid of a glyph, so I'll get rid of wait what, since I have Get in there right now. And I might just how much is I might not need a potion here. 56. Oh, it's just barely. Just barely. Whatever. I can afford a potion. I'm a halfling. And I can probably take on this. Oh, yeah, this is where the vampires start getting annoying, when my high health is actually making them stronger. But as a priest, I can still take them out in one shot afterwards, so that's nice. I could take this guy on, but he's not worth any experience, so instead I'll just focus on leveling up. And I don't even need to regenerate some more. There we go. Right, this was just a golden black space sub-dungeon. I don't have any interesting targets at the moment. I mean, I could probably just easily take on this guy, no problem. Yeah, I have to, it's 3 health potions, so if I can convert Merinderas right now, I'll have 4 potions, which is more than enough. So let's do that. One thing I don't really emphasize on in these videos that still bears reminding, especially if you're having trouble with the dungeons, your only goal is to kill the boss. So any fight that you do, you do it to get you in a better position to fight the boss. If you are able to fight the boss, don't keep fighting other monsters. And if there are 2 bosses, then take out one boss as early as possible. That way you get the most bonus experience out of it, without getting rid of all your resources, so you still have stuff for the other boss. Like right now, I have plenty of other monsters I could be taking on. You know, there's like another level 9 I'll find and all that, but I can't take on the boss, so I should do that right away. And now I can take care of these guys and unlock the Glowing Guardian. So there's one last that I need to find. Who will be level 9? I haven't missed him, have I? No, doesn't look like it. Just keep looking. Where is he? Here? No? In there. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I'll do our traditional... well, that's fine. So this is what I meant, by the way, about a lot of exploration being cut off by chunks of wall. This whole part of the dungeon doesn't exist, basically. So be aware of that when you're doing this dungeon. You have less exploration than you think. Okay, so now I have the 5 beads. Right. So quick thing about Glowing Guardian and about Priest. Glowing Guardian does not like it when you quaff a potion. Here's a demonstration. Well, I have 80 piety now. Minus 10 piety. That's a lot. Now, the thing about Glowing Guardian is that he doesn't have that many things that he doesn't like. The most obvious and clearly readily available ways of losing piety are using your potions. It's 10 piety per potion. But the other stuff that he doesn't like all involve aspects of the game that you unlock later. Some classes and some gods give you the ability to drink blood pools for health, and that's like 10 piety. 10 piety also per thing. Anything that poisons your enemies, including the Glyph of the Assassin, is another 10 piety. And if you have life steal, so your attacks drain enemies' health, that's minus 20 piety. Enormous, obviously. But those are the only things off the top of my head that drain piety. They just drain for a lot, so you don't want to do them. And Glowing Guardian gives piety slowly at first, but one of his main bonuses is the piety you get every time you level up. It's cumulative. So the first level up you get 3 piety, but the next one you get 6. The one after that you get 9, and so on. So you build up piety as you worship him, and there are all sorts of tiny little things that will get you piety. For instance, killing an enemy that has a burning stack applied to them using, like, if you've cast fireball on them so they have burning and then your next blow kills them, you get 1 piety. If you get poisoned, you get 2 piety. If you get mana burned, you get 2 piety. If you kill an undead, you get 1 piety. If you convert a large item, you get 5 piety, and a small item, you get 2 piety. Although if it's a potion that's the small item you convert, it's 5 piety anyway. And so on. So, and if we look at his boons, humility is probably one of his strongest ones. It's not necessarily clear the first time you read it. It lowers your character level by 1, but your stats stay the same. So your health, your attack power, and so on, that stays the same. So the idea is that your level is effectively 1 lower, but you have the stats of a level 1 higher. So you can, any enemies that you have taken on that are the same level as you are now technically a level higher, but they're still pretty easy to kill. So you get bonus experience for monsters that would be the same level as you, and you know, a monster 1 level as you is now 2 level as you. So it really increases the amount of bonus experience you can get, but it decreases the power of glyphs that have an effect based on your level. The most obvious is Burndare, as the fireball glyph deals 4 damage per your level. So instead of at level 2 dealing 8 damage, you'll be dealing 4 damage. And the burning cap is also affected by your level. So that's a pretty big nerf to characters who rely on fireballs, but those of it who only use it as supplementary damage, but who mainly use their physical attacks for damage, love this boon. Absolution grants 4 HP, removes a monster of your level or lower from the board except undead, and this doesn't work if there are no monsters of your level or lower on your board that are not undead. But it gets you 4 max HP every time you cast it, has a cumulative cost of 2 plus 2. So this is really good at low levels, just the same way that the health pendant is really good at low levels, because it provides a really big base HP increase. You know, right now I'm level 8 priest, 4 extra HP does very little difference, but at level 1 you can triple this if you accumulate enough piety, like converting stuff and so on. So very good to convert to worship early. Cleansing removes 1 corrosion, 1 weakness, poison, and mana burn. So you know, it's mainly useful for removing poison or mana burn if you fight like a snake or a wraith. You know, 1 weakness and 1 corrosion, it's mainly useful if you cast it multiple times, but it's 10 piety. Now, the big thing about this that will come into play much later is that as you can see here, next combat strike will deal magic damage. So if you're fighting an enemy that has high physical resistance, you use cleansing once, and your next attack will act as though you're doing magic damage. It will completely bypass physical resistance. That's a very powerful effect that will come into play later on. And protection, it restores 35% and 30 of both your health and mana. This is kind of your potion replacement in a sense. It's not quite as effective as a health potion and a mana potion by 5%, but it does both. It doesn't cure poison and mana burn, however. You have to be careful about that. And yeah, it has a cumulative cost of 10 plus 5, so don't spam it because it'll quickly stop being affordable, and so on. Enlightenment, we'll cover that one later. And the last thing to note is that these 3 boons, I'll give you one of these little beads. 1% magic resistance each, as you can see here, but can't be converted. So, for the most part, these are a drawback of worship. These are like the restriction that the Glowing Guardian imposes upon you. Because they fill up your inventory, so you can have less stuff in it, and so on. That being said, they come into play with Enlightenment because they give you bonuses. That boon gives you notably bonuses based on how many beads you have in your inventory. But for the most part, the main restriction, other than the potions and the stuff you can do under the Glowing Guardian, is these beads. So be aware of that. Be aware that if you use him extensively, you'll be clogging up your inventory. That can be part of the strategy, but it's something to keep in mind, because otherwise, just starting off with humility, like you cast it at level 2, and then you usually have with absolution, you usually have enough power to kill a level 4 monster, or sometimes even a level 5. and so you kill something that's level 4 while your level is technically 1. It's a huge, excellent start that will help you progress very far. And you know, towards the end of the game, you can use protection to replace your potions, or if you'll just have enough piety that you can, you know, quaff a couple of potions anyway, and you'll be really, really strong. And all of this stuff is one of the things that makes Glowing Guardian one of my favorite deities in the game. And yeah, and actually, there's a couple of things I can show off here. First of all, my bonus damage is 40%. This is the 3 attack boosters plus the 2 times 5% boost that you get every time you grab one of Taurog's items. Important thing to note here, you get the 5% boost even if you don't take in the item in your inventory right away. It's just, you take the boon, you get that, and you also get the opportunity to pick up the item. That said, Taurog, unsurprisingly, does not like it when you convert his items. It makes him angry. Even if you're worshipping another god, let's see what happens. I'm going to convert this shield. This is the message that Taurog gives you if you get punished by him. So, like, if your piety goes below 0, he says that, but it's not the same effect. Here it dropped down to 30%. So if you convert one of Taurog's gear, you lose 10% attack bonus. It's pretty big, but it's not as big as the 50% attack bonus penalty that you get if you like anger him, obviously. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's bad. Don't convert them if you can help it, but they're worth a lot of conversion points, and 10% attack, damage decrease isn't the end of the world. So it's still something you can do if you're in a tight spot. Speaking of tight spot, if you need like more inventory space and so on. And since I'm in a good position to do so, let's actually show off what happens when you take Enlightenment. So Glowing Guardian is giving piety for every undead monster I kill. I could be casting Fireball on higher HP enemies to have any more undead. No, that's it. On higher HP enemies to get more piety, but I've converted it. I can convert Get In There because that's a big item, so it's 5 piety. Kill these monsters here. Say I take one of Absolution. You see I get an extra bead in my inventory. Okay, so now we're in good space. Normally I wouldn't do this because I would just keep the potions to sell them off, but I'm going to convert these potions. So now I'm at 100 piety. I have enough piety to grab Enlightenment. Let's have a look at what it does. So first things first, this stuff at the top tells you gain 5 max MP, which is very big, obviously. Remove Curse 99. In other words, it'll remove every single stack of Curse you have, and this is the only effect in the game that does that. Now, Curse isn't the problem right now, but it'll come into play when we unlock bandits and when we find other monsters. What it does is that it basically temporarily nullifies your resistances. So if you're a monk, you're relying on high resistances to get you through. You know, having even one stack of Curse is very, very painful because you can't use your resistances unless you clear it, and you clear it by killing non-cursed monsters. So, you know, you can grab a popcorn, but if you don't have much, or if you're trying to preserve them, then it's painful. That said, you know, right now all I have is 6 magic resistance, so it's not a big deal. But anyway, it's just good to know that Enlightenment is the only thing that will remove every single stack of Curse in the game at once. So that's very strong. And you have to read the description to find out more, but what it does is that every single bead will provide 1 extra health, 1% bonus damage, another 1% magic resistance, 1 XP, which is quite important, and 10 immediate conversion bonus points. And yeah, one off bonus of 5 mana and a curse wipe. So you can kind of see how this works. Enlightenment is something that you'll usually take if you've been worshipping Glowing Guardian for like the entire dungeon run. You have a lot of beads because you took Absolution, a couple of cleansings, maybe a couple of protections, and so every bead that's been clogging up your inventory will now become, you know, powerful. It'll give you more health, more attack bonus, some experience. So right now, if I were fighting a boss and I'm just short and like I'm out of potions, what do? Well, I have enough beads. I grab Enlightenment. I've leveled up thanks to that bonus experience. That's very nice. That's one of my favorite parts of the boon, really. And you know, I have 16 max MP. That would be 18, but I took some of Taurog's boons that lowered my my max mana. I have extra bonus damage now. I have 6%, 6 extra health, and so on. All of that isn't that much, but if you have like 10 to 15 beads, then it adds up nicely. Combine that with the fact that you can reach level 10 using this, and that if you have humility, then you're effectively level 11, which is normally impossible. But you know, going from 9 to 10, even if you have humility, still boosts your base damage by 5. It still boosts your max HP by 10 plus your health boosters. So this is all to give you an idea that Enlightenment can make you very, very powerful if you arrange to, you know, use the Glowing Guardian to its fullest. It's clunky. It costs 100 piety, which is a lot. The effect isn't extremely huge unless you've been really, really pushing it. That usually involves like converting a lot of items as well. A lot of people just feel that it's not worth the piety cost, and I can kind of see why. Although the 5 MP is huge, and so on. It's not the most beloved boon in the game, and it's not necessarily the best way to use Glowing Guardian, because quite often you'll grab Humility and Absolution at the start, maybe you'll take Cleansing and Protection, and very often towards the end you'll convert into another god to use your potions or to get additional benefits. But if you're a steadfast Glowing Guardian worshipper, Enlightenment is kind of the big payoff. And it can be quite a payoff, you just have to work for it. Okay, that's enough rambling for me. Hopefully that was interesting. I'll convert the Skull Picker. It'll give me an additional potion. I don't care about the penalty of attack damage because I'm done. And I don't think you sell this item at the end. It doesn't have a gold worth, so it's not like you get any gold bonus from it. So that's one thing. If you're playing a potion race, you're worshipping Taurog, you can, after you're done everything, you can just get rid of all your equipment for extra potions to sell off at the end. Okay, well, that was that. Nice and easy run. Priests of Taurog are quite strong. And and because I have unlocked 4 gods now, and I own the special edition, I get the gold glade, which will let me unlock the goat person. But we're not going to worry too much about the goat person at the moment. Very quirky, fun, quirky, challenging class to play. But this is a basic playthrough. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.